Council members, are you all ready? Don't rush me.
All right, Elizabeth.
We gotta roll on, man.
I have a process.
Ready for it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Minutes, agenda.
You know whose fault it is I'm late is Donna Creeks.
What can we say?
It's all her fault.
Hello, Elizabeth.
Hi, Rob.
This is telling me I got a city council meeting.
You know,
That's good
I left my
news.
phone home.
Well, I should have, but I'm
Are you
putting it
ready?
on silent.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to see you all here. Welcome to the Southern Shores Town Council regular meeting for July the 2nd, 2024. If you don't mind, could you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks very much. We'll have a moment of silence now. Thank you. Council, we have an agenda in front of us. May I have a motion to either amend or approve the agenda as it stands now?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have an agenda. Thank you. Council, we have a consent agenda, which tonight consists only of our minutes that were emailed. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda if there are no issues with that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Thank you. Next, we'll have our Deputy Town Manager and Planning Director, Wes Haskett, for his staff report. Good evening, Wes.
Hello, Wes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. For the month of June, we issued a total of 50 permits. Those consisted of 8 zoning permits, 15 building permits, 24 trade permits, and 3 lot disturbance stormwater management permits. The total amount of fees collected in June was $13,066.45. With respect to code enforcement, there were 8 warning citations mailed for solid waste ordinance violations. And with respect to the planning board, they will be meeting on July 15th at 5 o'clock here in the Pitt Center. The purpose of the meeting is for the board to consider ZTA 2404, which is an application submitted by the town to amend Town Code Section 36207B and Town Code Section 36207C to establish planned unit developments as a special use, to amend Article 9 by amending the requirements for planned unit developments, to amend Town Code Section 36-209 by adding Bitcoin mining as a prohibited use in all zoning districts, and to amend Town Code Section 36-171 by establishing a lot disturbance stormwater management permit is required to remove trees greater than 6 inches in diameter, measured at 4.5 feet above the ground, within a front, side, or rear yard setback on any unimproved lot in all zoning districts, and the enforcement for violations of that requirement. Any questions?
Nope.
Any questions for Wes?
Nope.
I think we're good.
Great.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank y'all.
Next, we have a special person joining us this evening, Michael Zahner. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening.
Michael is an alternate member of our planning board here in Southern Shores, and he's going to talk to us about affordable housing.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out tonight.
Appreciate it. No, and I apologize. I couldn't make your June meeting. So thank you for having me over for your July meeting. So not so much of a report on affordable housing, but maybe a report out of what the Planning Commission or Planning Board has recommended and requested. But we had a discussion, I had requested a discussion at the May meeting about affordable housing, and principally to focus on my opinion that I think the town should take some initiative to explore the issues and the problems and some level of public engagement and education around the issue. I shared my opinions about what I believe the challenges were, and I think other members did as well as ideas about solutions, but no real consensus there, as you might expect. But I think the consensus was that they requested that I come before you to request and recommend that the town council initiate some initiative, some study around affordable housing within the town. Focusing obviously on the county-wide initiative. Ultimately, it's going to take local jurisdictions like the town to explore what solutions and what problems and what needs there are in the town around affordable housing. So generally, that's it. I'll give you back your time in case you have any questions, unless you have any questions, but it was really to convey that recommendation from the planning board that council initiate some type of study or committee to explore those issues.
Okay, thanks. Council, anybody want to ask Michael a question while he's before us?
I got one. Mike, would you consider, if we had a longer-term vision for the town, and then, let's say, a 10 to 20-year timeframe, could this notion of affordable housing, I know it's more of a near-term issue rather than a long-term issue, but I think it's both timeframes. Would you consider raising with the planning board that kind of looking a little bit further out? Because other council members and I have been chatting about maybe assembling a group to look to the future. And then what should Southern Shores look like from a commercial and residential standpoint? If you don't have a plan, things are just going to go along, or at least a vision of where it is.
Sure.
And then you have to, a vision without a plan is hallucination. So you've got to have some sort of plan in place. It may not survive contact with reality, but unless it's out there, you just are going to go along willy-nilly.
Yeah, and you and I've talked, you've talked to me a couple of years ago about the idea of storytelling around all of this, everything, and creating that vision. What is the vision for aesthetics and character, the built environment? What is the vision for housing? Everything, right? So ideally, that's something that's done in a community's comprehensive land use plan. But I can appreciate, where our plan is and the genesis for that and the focus of that. But, you also have on your agenda here the design standards, which I made the motion on, which I suggested that there be some type of initiative to look at our commercial corridor. And certainly housing is not unrelated to that. I do believe that there's an opportunity through our commercial corridor to look at housing opportunities, look at areas that perhaps could receive some additional development that would still be consistent with the character of the town. But I think it's all related, and I think there's short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. I mean, if we had been doing this 20 years ago, maybe we wouldn't be in the problem we are now. So I think absolutely. I think the intent is, and the focus I think that the planning board talked about, well, should this be a planning board initiative? And my answer was no, it's a town initiative, and it shouldn't be, just something that's run through the planning board or run through council, but there should be representatives from those bodies, but also town stakeholders, people that are supportive of affordable housing, people that are opposed to affordable housing, because you need all those voices, and hopefully you're educating people at the same time. I mean, I made this point at the planning board meeting. All we're talking about when we're talking about affordable housing is housing that doesn't cost more than 30% of a household's income, regardless of your income. So it's not the income segments that make housing affordable. It's the cost of the housing. And I think, I think everyone agrees that we have a problem county-wide, but I think that problem manifests itself locally in our town. So,
Michael, are you aware of any other towns in Dare County that are doing the kind of study that you're asking us to do?
I don't know offhand. I think Nags Head has started some town-based initiative, but I don't know what their problem statement is that they're exploring. I think every town I know of, having worked for the town of Nags Head previously, is tackling housing to some degree, whether it's called a focused affordable housing effort, I don't know. But yeah, I think everyone's trying to tackle the problem in different ways. I think, part of the problem is coming to the table with a solution before you've had everyone agree on what the problem is and what the symptoms are, what the causes are. And I think that's what I would suggest we do, is have those types of conversations and not presume that everyone agrees that there's a problem, but come to the table and say, here are the markers that point to a problem. Do we agree that those exist? And then what are our needs for our community, and how does that manifest itself in our community and affect, our quality of life?
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have anything for Mark? Appreciate it,
All
sir.
right, thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it. Thank you for the consideration.
Absolutely. Chief Cole. You're next. Good evening.
Evening, Mayor, members of council. The June 2024 report for the police department. As you can see, we had a total of 1,392 calls for service. You can see by the pie chart, the breakdown there. Under the incidents, which were actually the reported crimes, we had a total of 8. Under criminal arrest, we had 2 criminal arrests, total of 4 charges under that. And the officers conducted 104 traffic stops for the month of June. And out of that 104, they wrote 14 written citations and another 80 warning citations. Our community resource officer has been busy. He wrote 45 ordinance violations, making people's days. We had 7 reportable motor vehicle accidents for the month of June. Questions before I cover just a couple of other things. I believe it was Councilmember Botanic at the last meeting when I handed out the annual report, had asked about the business checks. I didn't dare say anything until I made sure I had my homework done, but because we conduct an awful lot of business checks. But one of the things that we implemented several years ago, and I'll hand out a copy of it, was it's a card that you can put on the business door. You would be amazed how many business doors in this town we find open. Windows open, those types of things. The month of June, we found 11. So the officers are doing their job. So what we did was I wanted the owners and the managers to know this stuff, so they leave a card behind. If they're able to secure the building, then they secure it. But if they're not, then they contact a key holder. And sometimes the key holders show up and sometimes they don't. So this was just a way of letting them know, hey, your police officers are out there doing their job, and you might want to talk to some of your help, and they might want to double check that door before they leave. Just the door hanging
Cool.
Only other thing I'd like to mention is the August council meeting. I'm hoping that we will introduce Tucker Melton. He's out in his FTO program right now. We'll introduce him. He's the one that went through the academy. We also like to have introduced her tonight, but she don't start till tomorrow, so she'll be at the August meeting. Sophie Wright, she comes from the Elizabeth City Police Department with 5 years experience, which is like 10 years experience in the Outer Banks. True. And we're happy to have her. And our community resource officer, Garrett Jones, his brother, as you recall, was our CRO, our community resource officer that does the parking enforcement and the beach patrol the last couple of years, and he's gone on to college. So we have his brother who just graduated high school, and he's doing a great job. And also we'll have Sergeant Simpson, who's just been promoted to sergeant, and we're going to acknowledge his advanced certificate at the same time too. So we're hoping to do all that in August.
Nice.
Any questions, concerns?
Just one.
Yes, ma'am.
Bicycles on the South Dogwood walking path. What would you consider a safe speed to be for a bicycle?
You talking about a regular bicycle or an electric bicycle?
Oh, I'm just going to say bicycle.
Yes.
Okay.
It's difficult. I mean, I hate to see the mix of pedestrians and bikes too on a sidewalk, but I'd rather see that than see them on the skinny little dry roads that we have. But I can tell you that there's some electric bikes that are going way too fast. But that's one of those things that the states keep doing. They come up with all these things that they allow, but in these mandates, but they don't give us any legislation to enforce any of it. They follow the same rules as a regular bicycle, so they're allowed on the sidewalks and everything else, unfortunately. And then when you strap on about a 5-foot, skimboard or surfboard to it, that makes it even that much more dangerous when you're coming up on pedestrians and that.
Indeed.
But a safe speed, I can't really, just good common sense. I'll tell you what I wish people would do is learn how to walk on the right side of the road.
Thank you.
You know how frustrating it is every day. Every day. I mean, that was something I learned when I was 5 years old. Just walk facing traffic. And then the other problem I've always had down here is, and that's why I quit giving bikes away to the folks that are here from overseas, because too many of them were getting hit on bikes. And nobody would teach them the right way to ride a bike. And they're riding on 158 against traffic, and just bad things just waiting to happen. So,
Yeah.
But it would be nice to at least kind of re-educate our locals on what side of the road they really should be walking
Or jogging.
or jogging.
Yeah, as the case may be. Well, I'm asking that sort of in jest because I knew kind of where your answer was going to go. But I did want to take the opportunity to just tell everyone, be safe out there, be smart. Don't jog on South Dogwood with the traffic when there's a perfectly decent walking path
Yeah.
right there.
And if I'm going to get hit, I want to see it, not be surprised
Anyway.
from behind. There's a reason why they have you walk facing traffic so you can get out of the way.
Right.
And in North Carolina, I think I've explained this before, pedestrian doesn't have the right of way like in a lot of states. If you have the ability to get out of the way, it's your obligation as a pedestrian to get out of the way and yield to the vehicle. And why challenge it? The vehicle usually wins anyway in an accident like that. So,
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much. Okay. Chief Limbacher, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Before we get into the monthly report, I do want to introduce our new Deputy Chief, a pretty joyous occasion for me. Trey, if you want to come on up here. I don't do hats, so he's good. Although he doesn't have any hair like me. So this is Trey Bachelet, and many of you know, I spoke with you privately that he started with us way back in 2008. He brings a wealth of knowledge and experience and dedication to the Southern Shores Fire Department. Started as a volunteer with us, and his passion for leadership propelled him all the way through the ranks of assistant chief under me when he was before he left for Elizabeth City. Spent 5 years in Elizabeth City, and then he returned to the area in 2015 as a career firefighter for Duck, and moved through the ranks there through captain and into their deputy chief and their fire marshal. Unfortunately for Duck, he's leaving to come here, which is our win. But we're very happy to have him, and I think he's going to be a great asset for us. Outside firefighting, Trey cherishes spending time with his wife Alex and his two small girls. He's also has a third one on the way, so God bless him. His family's here tonight, witness everything. you all know that I take our safety in the community very, very seriously, and I very choosy on who I pick, as is Chief Cole, to serve our citizens, because I think they deserve the highest performance and I lead by example, I hope. But it brings me great pleasure to welcome Trey home. Congratulations.
Yay. Welcome, Trey. Trey's family.
Mayor, I would like to impose on you just a minute, Mayor, if you would like to do the pinning of the badge for him, that'd be great.
Cool.
Yeah.
You can let him talk?
Pressure's off now, he can relax. All right, so for the month of June for the fire department, we responded to a total of 100 calls, and that's typical of this time of year. It's up a little bit from last year from 25. Pretty simple breakdown. 3 structure fires, 1 fire inside the building, 2 brush fires, 65 EMS calls, 1 motor vehicle with injuries, 2 without, 1 victim removal from elevator, 1 gas leak, 1 carbon monoxide incident, 1 electrical wiring problem, basically an HVAC problem, 2 shorted arcing electrical equipment, 3 service calls, 3 of our service calls for our beach wheelchair program, 1 lockout, 2 public service, 1 authorized burning, 2 dispatched canceled en route, 1 where there was no incident found, and then 7 alarms, including a CO detector. Pretty simple breakdown. Any questions on that? As I said, up 25 from last year, but those numbers go up and down every month, so you never can tell. Next year it might be down 25, who knows?
Any questions for Chief Limbaugh? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much. Really appreciate the work that both our fire department and police department do, especially, not to mention the public works department, especially considering how hot it's been lately. So thank you all very much for all your hard work. It's very much appreciated. Let's see. Next, we get to hear from our town manager, Cliff Ogburn. Welcome, Cliff.
Thank you all. I just have some very brief updates on some of the projects that have been planned and about to start here in town. The Millful survey that DEQ is going to do based on the contract that y'all awarded at the last meeting, their plan is to do that in the second half of this month. So in the next 2 to 3 weeks, they should have this survey done. And I'm anticipating at your September council meeting that we have the results of that survey to present to you. The culvert on Trinity and Juniper, plan right now is the timeline calls for putting that contract out to bid September 9th. It'll be a 4-week bid that'll go up until October 4th. And so I'm hopeful that we'll have the contract for you all to award, provided we get 3 bidders. And Kimley Horn has been putting the word out that this project's going to be bid soon, and anyone that's done work in Division 1 will know about this project. So hopefully at your November 5th meeting, we'll be able to hopefully get that project under contract. The street repaving we don't have a start date for that project yet. What we do know is that the project has to be completed by October 15th. Barnhill has that contract, and they haven't put it on their schedule yet. It's probably about 3 weeks worth of work. So in their world, it's probably on out. And then I wanted to let you know, as you probably already know, that the sidewalk that you all improved for installation on Skyline Road from the Spindrift cut through down to Duck Road or NC 12, that was completed. It's done. I think it looks good. We were real pleased that's a new contractor for us that did that work. So we're pleased to have that completed. For anyone that lives on the stretch of South Dogwood from Osprey to Fairway, as you well know, you lost water from a lightning strike sometime around, and as the chief and fire chief know, about 3 o'clock Sunday morning, created a pretty big water main break, substantial amount of water, and that fire hydrant there was service done on that today, and water was restored at 4:44, from what I understand. So thankful that is done and over with. But that's all I've got. Just brief updates on some things.
Any questions for Cliff? Council?
Very good.
On the subject of the Skyline sidewalk, I got this text from one of our residents. Driving home on Skyline, this was Saturday evening at 9:18 p.m. Driving home on Skyline right now, the large families are walking on the sidewalk and not in the road. You've done good, exclamation mark. Thank you. So, we don't get attagirls and attaboys that much. So when we do, we might as well, say them out loud. Thank you, Cliff. Philip, welcome. Do you have anything for us this evening?
Glad to be with you all, but nothing to report.
Okay. We have a general public comment. I don't know if anyone has signed up, but if anyone would like to speak, now's your chance. Okay. So council, next on our agenda is old business, discussion and direction, ZTA 2403, commercial design standards. So we talked about this some at the last meeting, and we decided we wanted to talk about it some more, I think. Would anyone like to start the discussion?
I can start.
Okay.
So I've had a little bit more time with the ZTA as written, and there's a handful of things that still stick out to me that I'd like to go through with the rest of council and see what their take is on it.
Okay.
I'm going to circle back to probably the biggest sticking point, which is more definitional. But as you get to section part 3, section B, which is page 6 or page 4 of the ZTA, page 6 of our packet, when you get into that generally section, I think we should strike 1, 8, and 9.
And why is that?
I don't really think that we're at a point to say exterior building color shall be subtle, neutral, or earth tone. I'm not sure. I think that's more of a community discussion rather than us. And then the other two they don't do anything, so that I'd rather just eliminate them.
They don't do anything because of the use of the word encouraged?
Well, I mean, they don't add anything to the
They don't add
guidance.
anything, okay. And we actually use the word encouraged in number 10 as well. In the
Yep.
second sentence.
But the other part of that is worth keeping, so.
Okay. Anyone else have thoughts on 1, 8, and 9?
I agree. And I question on 11, how come we didn't, so you can't have animals, lighthouses, castles, or pirate ships? I guess that means we can have lollipops and,
Yeah.
I mean, we just,
There's a corollary past this ZTA that I would like to get to that might tackle some of that better. But I mean, you could make a whole prohibited emblem
Right.
list
Yeah.
a mile long if you wanted to. Paula doesn't want to see a lighthouse building, so
yeah, I mean, but the whole idea
I wanted
here
to see a pirate ship.
was to not have anything on the outside of the building.
Nothing garish, I think, is the goal.
Yeah.
But that's to the eye of the beholder. So.
Well, I think when I asked this question before about 11, because my question was, well, could you put a giant pizza or could you put a giant donut or cookie? And the answer I got was that would be a sign, not an architectural element. But I think you can make the argument that it is a building element. So
I think they think like, is it an architectural form? Like, is it
Right.
is it in the building plan to construct the entryway like a shark's
Right.
mouth or a pizza slice or something of that nature?
right.
rather than, I kind of agree with Wes that something adhered to the side of the building is more of a sign.
Well, if it can be interpreted as a sign and we can prohibit it, then I'm fine with it. As far as 8 and 9, I agree they're not something that you can particularly enforce, but it does give a message of what we want businesses to aspire to. So I don't have any problem with 8 or 9. And I actually don't have any problem with 1.
You have a problem with striking them?
No, I don't have a problem
I'd
with
like to
keeping
tackle
it.
some of that element in a different manner, sort of similar to what planning board member Zahner was urging us to do in the motion that sent it to us. So that's the meat and potatoes of the list side. The other side that I'm batting with is I don't like the adaptable definition of finished area where it refers back basically to living space, which is something that can change over time depending upon the use of a structure. After battling with this for some time, I probably could accept the way it's written. I don't like it.
Where is that one?
So
So
this
on
is
page
on
5.
page 3 of the ZTA, but page 5 of our
Gotcha.
packet.
Okay.
Right.
Top of the page, defines finished area ratio, very similar to concept of floor area ratio. And then it defines finished area as see our living space definition, which you don't have in your packet, but it's subject to change. Like if you had a bank in a building and had a bank vault, that would not be living space by our definition, but that could be torn out. And then the floor area ratio and everything else is based on would then be subject to change. I'd like it to be more immutable personally. And I'm not sure how much we can edit this and still move ahead with the ZTA. So
Well, I keep getting hung up on the fact that living space is used when we're talking about the commercial district and we're talking about, and I looked it up, living space means human habitation. Although that is allowed in the commercial district, so I guess you could argue that. But so is there a definition that you would be comfortable with, Matt? Or is this a good place to start and it's an area we want to work on in the
I think
future?
in trying to control building size and mass in relationship to the land it's built on, what the interior part of that building is sort of irrelevant. It's what's inside the exterior walls, floor area, traditional understanding of it. I don't know if Wes has anything to add to that, but it's
So you would
the
just
sum of the
say
horizontal areas of several stories of a building measured from the exterior walls.
floor area, use floor area instead of finished area as your fix for now.
But then we have to define floor area as well. And I don't
Okay.
know if that's too much of a departure from the written.
Floor area is not currently defined in our ordinances. Okay.
So one alternative is adopted as written with instruction to staff to redefine finished area as something more concrete rather than a referral to living space that captures all the square footage within the exterior walls.
I'm okay with that.
That seems like a good place to
I'm okay
land
with
for
that.
tonight, to me. Gentlemen? Thoughts? No?
Just an overall general thought on the whole issue is, I think here we have an 80 to 90% solution with all of the changes. And maybe we deal with some of these issues here with amendments at later council meetings, because if we get some applications in, they're going to be dealing with the old standards.
Right.
So in other words, adopting newer revised standards, even though they're not perfect, may be a good thing to do. So at least we have that 80 to 90% solution, vice going back to old standards.
Right, I think we need something, even if we have to refine it later. I think I mentioned this last time, in part, on page 4, part 1, that F, I really do like the idea of trading shade trees for parking spaces. I think that's a good direction to go in. I don't know how many more parking lots we're ever going to have in Southern Shores, but if we do, having them with a tree canopy would be, I think, nice.
Absolutely.
So the other change what we discussed last month was on page 5 of our packet, page 3 of the ZTA, line 37. Actually, it's line 38. Replace the word shall with may. The applicant may submit to town staff.
So you want to change the word shall to may?
Yes.
Why wouldn't we require them to do that?
This is what we discussed last month.
I know.
But Wes was thinking was may was more.
That's line 38.
Yeah.
So it may be 6 feet or not, right?
Line 38 of page 5.
Page
Page
5.
3 of the
Page
ZTA,
5.
page 5 of the packet.
The applicant may submit to town staff
Mhm.
a sketch, a site plan review application.
That's fine.
So let me make sure I understand. Staff preferred the word may?
It was originally written in May. I don't know if I want to say they prefer it. You had it as May originally, right? Yeah.
So what happened? You said what?
Planning board recommended shall.
The planning board recommended it go from may to shall.
So what happens if they don't submit one?
It goes to a regular review process where they go to the planning board and then to town council. This is giving the applicant, like if they have potentially a controversial project, to sort of work through some of the development hurdles in partnership with the planning board, but for a more, maybe less controversial development, they can just go through the normal process where it's a normal zoning application, goes to planning board, then to council.
So-
Either way, it's going to planning board. This is just
Right.
planning board twice.
So really what you're doing is you're sort of putting it in the applicant's lap. You're saying you need to decide if a sketch plan review going to the planning board is something that
Yeah,
that
before
would
they,
favor your
before they spend a couple
proposal.
$100,000 in design documents
Right.
and because they think there might be pushback or feedback from the planning board
Yeah.
that'd be useful to them.
So we're counting on an applicant having the wherewithal to know that what he's submitting or what they're submitting is something that's going to benefit from a sketch plan review.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. I'm okay
I
with
get
that.
it from that point of
I
view.
get it.
I think that makes sense to me. All right, so I think where we are is leave the finished area part the way it is for now.
For now.
All right, make that change on line 38.
Yep.
We're
Next
going
bit.
to delete 1.
No, I don't know that we all agree. that
Okay, let's
delete
decide what we want to do about 1, 8, and 9
On page 6, right?
on page
Yeah.
6.
I kind of like 1.
I kind of like 1 too. I looked up earth tones. I looked up subtle. I looked it all up
Keep
and I
in
was
mind,
like, I
like
was
the
good with
original
that.
flat tops that were built in this town wouldn't have complied with this.
Right. But we are talking about the commercial.
I mean, I think that level of detail needs to be more of a community-led decision rather than
But I
planning board
think,
and council.
but I think that's what our community wants in the commercial area. They don't want some glaring, I agree with you about the flat tops, but this just applies to commercial properties. And I don't think they want the big bright colored buildings. They don't want the yellow building.
I think there are some that wouldn't care, frankly, but.
In Southern Shores.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people in town. I mean, we hear from our limited circles. And I think things that are that specific design elements, and it goes back to our land use plan, we go to, where they're talking about building design standards, it says, when creating design standards, the community should be involved in the process. So just deferring back, the end result is non-residential development is comparable within the context of surrounding areas, a direct reflection of the development style desired by community residents. And I think we should stick to what our land use plan talks about when it sets commercial design standards.
Okay.
So that's why I also, coastal architectural style, I mean, I think that needs to be a better defined concept than to say that that's what we encourage. Because I think the ABC store in Kitty Hawk was designed with a coastal architectural style. So was our fire station. So it's a broad term. That's why I think for now, the meat and potatoes, I think the best thing to tackle is this floor area ratio and control the size and mass of what's put on the property. And then some of these other things are just, pretty practical, screen the dumpsters and stuff like that. But anything that's more subjective, I think we should open up to more of a small area plan or a specific plan for the enhancement of our commercial district, which again is in the goals of our land use plan that we're going to be considering next.
Well,
Where it
one-
says design standards for redevelopment or development of commercial structures. That was high on the survey docket. And then part of our mission statement, I believe, was to enhance our commercial district.
It is indeed.
It says, we strive to protect Southern Shore's environment, enhance the small commercial district located on the southern edge of town, preserve the town's unique qualities. So, I think that's something that should be a larger community engagement, maybe with a couple members of council, a couple members of planning board, a couple member of staff, and a couple community members that work as a task force to kind of create sort of that 50-year vision of what our redevelopment or commercial zone will look like over time. So it has some guideposts, but it's not a whole lot of lists of what you can't do. It's more, this is the development we all agree that we want to see.
Well, I think in putting together the land use plan, we had those public meetings, and not my takeaway from those public meetings is that people were looking for a more aesthetically pleasing commercial area.
I agree.
So that's why
But I
I
don't
think.
think we've defined what that means
Yeah,
to our
I
community
I
yet.
think it needs work, but I think 1, 8, and 9 are fine. Even though 8 and 9 are not very specific, what they're saying to the commercial builder is, this is what our community wants.
So like the awnings of the Keller Williams wouldn't be compliant. I mean, this is more concrete than I
But it
think.
doesn't say the awnings where.
I think it would be, that's why it's better not to have in there right now until we've thought all this through, in my
But we're
opinion.
looking at just new buildings
Or redevelopment.
or redevelopment.
Yep.
I guess just, I envision areas like Hilton Head that have commercial design, and I know they've got a long tradition of doing that. And, it's a very pleasing look.
I don't disagree. I just think this document doesn't get us there. And it's,
But it's a step in the right direction.
But it's a step in the right direction. Okay, so I guess what we need to do is decide, someone make a motion with 1, 8, and 9 removed, and somebody make them, and then we'll see how that goes. And then
I'll make a
we'll go from
motion.
there.
I'll make a motion to adopt ZTA 2403 with the following changes. On line 38, the word shall be replaced by may. On page 4, starting with section B, line 1, 8, and 9 are deleted in entirety. And those are the totality of my changes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Everyone ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
2 ayes. All opposed? 3. So that motion failed. Did you get all that, Wes? All right. Someone else want to make a motion that's different?
And what did you want to do about that floor area, finished area? You wanted that to go back to staff.
I just want them to rewrite a definition for finished area that doesn't just say see living space. Because that's the most meat in this whole
And we can
document.
pass it and then give that direction to staff.
I think so.
So I move that we adopt ZTA -24-03 commercial design standards with line, with the word may substituting for the word shall on page 5. And otherwise,
Leave
no
as is.
changes. Pardon?
Leave as is.
Yes.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 3. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
2. Okay, so 3-2. It's adopted as amended, and our direction to staff is to work on a new definition of
Substitute.
floor, or substituting floor area with a new definition.
You know,
For
if you
finished
want to
area.
just keep finished area, I mean, that's fine. Just define finished area separately.
Separately, don't refer to C living space.
Yeah.
That's the part that really kind of, we
Right.
got stuck on. Okay. So Wes, is that good? Is that satisfactory? Okay. All right, thank you.
And then
Council?
before we leave this and we go to
Yes,
the
let's
land use
have that
plan.
other, let's have
I mean,
that other.
when I really set us down the road to commercial design standards, one of the disappointments I feel like in this is I wasn't defining what I wanted clearly enough. And what I wanted was a small area plan, a small comprehensive plan for our commercial district that better defined the things that Paul is concerned about, with garish colors and whatnot. But I don't feel, I think that is a community task force led derivative instrument and may overrule some of what we see here. I mean,
Right.
and I wanted to look at affordable housing options like Planning Board Zaner talked about, wanted to look at increases in floor area ratio if you provide below market house. I mean, just across the board, like a real vision for what our small 38 acres of commercial district will be, which is only 2% of our development in town, but it's the place, it's the first entry to our town. It's never really had this level of guideline. As Wes said, it's all built out, but I'm looking down the line when
Right.
some of this stuff is
Well, and
replaced.
It segues into Rob's desire for some sort of long-term vision, which I think the town definitely could benefit from that. And I also want to say, we need to try to include commercial property owners.
Yes, I agree.
In this discussion, it needs to be an inclusive, effort.
You need stakeholders and players.
Yeah, so I think Michael Zahner said the right words there, yeah. So do we want to do a direction to staff to come back to us with a proposal for this particular effort?
Like just a framework of
Yeah,
how
just a
many
framework,
members and
just a
things like
framework.
that.
Instead
Can I
of-
help? Can I help them with it? and
Instead of,
help
yeah, we
present
can
it?
all
Yeah.
help. We can all have conversations. We can also talk to people in the community, property owners,
Got
stakeholders.
two legislative affairs directors here. And
Yeah, we got
a
some
planning board
LAs here.
member, so.
Yeah, we can include, yes, many people. But it would just be come to us, what, meeting after next, or do you want to do it next meeting? It's sort of,
I think this doesn't have to get steamrolling in the next 30 days. I think
Yeah.
if we can come together with a framework that maybe we talk
Start
about
talking
and see if
Yeah.
that's agreeable, it shouldn't be a large community, but we do need it shouldn't be a large task force, but it does need assistance in getting community input.
Right.
And maybe some listening tours, like with your mayor's chats that you set the stand,
Yeah.
get people come in and things like that for the whole task force to hear.
I think we have to kind of prepare the battlefield, so to speak, and say to the citizens, we are looking for long-term input, let's say for 10, 20, or Matt was even say 50 years out. And this would be mostly for the commercial districts here in Southern Shores. But I think instead of getting the Cecil B. DeMille production with lots of people involved initially, I think the whole notion here would be get a select group together and if, commercial, residential, keep it small. And then when you have something that you can, citizens usually react better to say, okay, here's something that we are considering. What do you think? And if they have an alternate vision or build on it, that's great. So in other words, start small with more of a informal group, naturally notifying citizens that this is going on, and then say, we will have a product and X amount of months later, or whatever, weeks later, or whatever it is, at least with some principles lined out. And then some examples, and maybe sample visions or future stories of how the town would operate X amount of years into the future, and then put it out to citizens and see, let them shoot darts at it.
home. Okay, by consensus, I think staff has an idea of where this council would like to go with this idea. I think it's a terrific idea. So we'll make some progress. Okay, thanks, Matt. Council members, appreciate that. Okay, next, I'm going to hand this over to Philip for a public hearing.
Thank you. I now open the public hearing for adoption of the comprehensive land use plan. Call Mr. Haskell.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Hornthal. We have Andrea Radford with Stewart Incorporated, consultant that assisted us in the development of this land use plan, comprehensive land use plan, I should say, joining us virtually. So I'm going to defer to her at this time.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, tonight I'm going to present to you the draft comprehensive Camelon land use plan. This was an update of the 2014 Camelon land use plan that was adopted in July 2012. First of all, my name is Andrea Radford, and kind of go through the project purpose and the process, the vision and goals in the document, the draft future land use map, and some of the draft plan recommendations. What is a comprehensive land use plan? First of all, North Carolina's general statutes require that all local governments have a current comprehensive plan as a condition to enforce and apply zoning regulations. Comprehensive land use plan looks at looks 10 to 20 years into the future and makes projections based on past trends and data. It sets guidance for location intensity of certain types of development, which guides town staff, town council, and boards when you're making rezoning decisions. It is a policy document. It is not regulatory. It doesn't automatically update your zoning. It's a way to collect and agree on a shared community vision, values, and goals. It's a community conversation that you don't get to have very often. I mean, it's not very often you get the community together and talk about, you know, what they envision for the future of Southern Shores. And as a CAMA plan, the Coastal Resource Commission requires that you touch on these land use management topics: public access, land use compatibility, infrastructure carrying capacity, natural hazards, and water quality. We began this project in September 2022 with a kickoff with staff. We also had some focus group interviews with including the Chickasaw Properties Association and Southern Shores Civic Association. We had a survey that ran for 1 month. I'll go over a little bit more detail about the survey and the public meetings in another slide. We had planning board updates throughout the process. There was a recommendation for adoption by the planning board on August 9th, 2023. And you referred the plan for state review on September 5th of 2023. We received comments back from the state, which are included on another slide towards the end to let you know what revisions have been made to the plan. The next steps are this public hearing and then to send to the Coastal Resources Commission for certification. This kind of gives you another overview of the plan development process, where we kicked off with community to develop goals, vision, and values for the plan document. Had several public meetings, several touch points with several community members throughout this process. And here we are with this public adoption hearing tonight. Engagement by the numbers. Like I said earlier, you had a survey that ran for approximately 1 month. You had 583 responses. 2 public meetings at the Pitt Center. There was a kickoff meeting on November 15th 2022. And then there was an additional public meeting, April 26th of 2023, that introduced the community to the draft plan. Vision and goals. From what we heard from the community members and in the survey, were most residents wanted to keep Southern Shores a quiet coastal community with low density, single family homes, interspersed with passive and recreational facilities, navigable waterways, forests, and open space. The town's identity is intimately tied to its natural resources, history, and residential nature. We strive to protect Southern Shores environment, enhance the small commercial district located on the southern edge of town, and preserve the town's unique qualities by maintaining the existing community appearance and form. The plan's organized by draft goals, and each goal covers certain planning topic areas, including access to public trust waters. First goal is encourage the maintenance and improvement of existing private access facilities to public trust waters, beaches, and shorelines, and protect these public trust areas for public use and recreation. The second goal talks about land use, protect, enhance, and support land uses that are compatible with surrounding existing land use and are in alignment with the community vision. And the other one discusses land use as well, preserve the existing low density character of the unique coastal community and maintain alignment with the community vision. We have some goals on infrastructure, ensure effective and efficient delivery of infrastructure maintenance and services, ensure that providing infrastructure services does not affect the quality and productivity of areas of environmental concern, important resources and other fragile areas, and preserve, protect, enhance, and improve the natural environment and water quality in the ocean, sound, creeks, and canals. Last two goals are about public health and safety when it comes to the damaging effects from coastal hazards. And the last one is to ensure adequate mobility options are available that prioritize the needs of residents and visitors to the town. This is your draft future land use map. As you can see, it maintains your existing community character. You have this light yellow here is a residential character area. It recommends pedestrian-friendly, small to medium scale commercial development along the southern edge, and protects existing conservation, open space, canals, and recreational space. Your recreational space is kind of this lighter green here, includes the canals, the golf course, privately owned parks. You also have conservation open space, which is the open space here. You have this municipal and educational character area, which includes town-owned properties, and commercial, which again, that's on the southern edge. Your draft plan recommendations, like I said, are organized by goals. I'm going to provide kind of an overview of what's included, but it's not everything that's included in the document in its entirety. The first one is pertains to access to public trust waters, is continue recognizing your existing private ownership and control and maintenance of your current access to the beach and public trust waters, and continue to coordinate with SSCA and continue beach nourishment and dune management. You consider opportunities for town-owned accesses as these opportunities arrive. Currently, all your beach access and sound access are privately owned. So as opportunities arise, the town should consider adding public access areas. Maintain the aesthetic quality and navigability of the town-owned canal system. There is further direction underneath this recommendation that talks about programming that includes periodic dredging, removal of overhanging vegetation, and other debris removal, and the development of a formalized plan that provides further details on future canal maintenance. Land use and compatibility talks about preserving the low density nature of the residential community, your large 20,000 square foot lots wherever possible, and keep the commercial district on the southern edge of town. Create standards so that existing commercial sites can be redeveloped and intensified in a way that encourages a family-friendly commercial experience where people can gather and shop. These can include, facade materials, like certain percentage of masonry requirements, cementitious fiberboard, cedar, articulation. This is the stepping and recessing at external walls, any ground level details, like a certain percentage of glazing material and minimal blank walls, and the presence of awnings or canopies. And then continuing to protect your valuable historic resources. Infrastructure and carrying capacity, allow for hard armoring of natural shorelines and canals. Nature-based solutions, of course, are preferred, but are not required. Supporting protection and maintenance and preservation of existing parks and open space, and maintaining a dialogue between the Civic Association and Property Owners Association throughout the life of this plan, and consider opportunities to expand civic gathering space. I know there was conversations, I think it was last year, about making some updates to the Pitt Center. Maybe allowing for more public events there and making it accessible it's accessible by vehicle now, but some connectivity. Sounds like you have some connectivity from, I can't think of the name of the road by the Pitt Center. But it sounds like you've added some sidewalk connectivity that connects to NC 12. Water quality, encourage the use of low impact development vegetative buffers to filter stormwater and impervious surface limits, and innovative stormwater management alternatives to reduce runoff and improve environmental water quality. Consider establishment of a consistent water quality monitoring program at key locations in the canals and the sound, and identify and address point or non-point sources of pollution. This could be through partnering with the SSCA and North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality to monitor water quality in the canals, and specifically test for fecal contamination. And then to continue to allow the use of package systems when traditional systems are environmentally infeasible. Natural hazards, this one just talks about using the future land use map and zoning as a hazard mitigation tool by preventing development intensification in high hazard areas. These are areas that are prone to flooding. Evaluate high hazard and or repetitive loss properties and assess the potential to acquire these. Reduce community exposure and provide flood protections of open space areas. And educate residents and visitors about evacuation procedures regularly. I know your website provides a lot of guidance on this. Transportation and mobility, minimize the negative impacts on the community of traffic volume and congestion, and then there's further direction to continue the support of the Mid-Currituck Bridge and continue traffic counts on South Dogwood Trail, Hillcrest Drive, Sea Edge Trail, and Wax Myrtle Trail, and maintain safe pedestrian facilities. Then there's also some direction on considering updating the 2014 Southern Shores Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan. I realized this plan was not adopted, but it did provide a lot of recommendations to increase connectivity throughout town. And I know the town has received several grants and have moved forward with sidewalk and trail improvements. There is also a section on implementation. This section just provides time frame to assist in accomplishing goals, meaning short term meaning 1 to 2 years, medium term meaning 3 to 5 years, long term meaning 6 to 10 years, and anything that's labeled as ongoing is an indication that an action requires regular action by staff or boards to accomplish. And the revisions from the state divisions, there wasn't not a whole lot of comments received from the state review. We did receive a comment from the Division of Water Resources, wanting to see these updates on page 72, updating the reference to the 2022 water supply plan and updating a sentence about water being supplied by Dare County Water Department. And then you receive comments from the environmental management. Page 19, they just wanted to see references to the maps on 56, 60, and 63. Those maps include the storm surge map, flood zones and floodplain maps. Then they wanted to see some updates on page 56, talking about, explaining how hurricanes are often accompanied by heavy rainfall, storm surge, and high waves, and tornadoes, and other flood-related impacts, and also a discussion about adding a Category 6 category to the hurricanes. Do you have any questions, or do you want me to go back over anything? Have anything you'd like to discuss?
Any questions for Andrea? Any questions from anyone here?
Were the revisions requested by the state actually made in the document?
Yes.
No, that's my only question.
Sorry.
Is there anyone signed up to speak or anyone who would like to speak? I now close the public hearing.
Sorry. Thanks, Philip. Council, any further discussion?
Well, we've been looking at this for quite a while, so I feel like we've had a lot of opportunity to discuss it. There are just a couple of things that caught my eye when I reviewed it. The very small, minor things and not a reason to not vote for this, but I think we do need an opportunity. There are a couple of sections where it looks like there were some cut and paste issues where things were omitted that were added that shouldn't have been added, very small. Also on the acknowledgement section, because this is spanned, it's overlapped with an election. We have a new council member. I think his name needs to be added, and I think there are new planning board members that need to be added. But other than that, just as long as we've got the opportunity to tweak it a little bit before it gets published.
Anybody else? Okay. So looks like the staff is asking us for a motion to approve Resolution 240701 to adopt the comprehensive Camelot land use plan and authorize the deputy town manager, planning director to submit the adopted plan to the state for certification. Motion made, sorry. Is there a second?
Second.
Were your typographical issues, or
Well,
they should be corrected before?
yeah,
Before it's submitted,
right.
the name has to be changed.
Pages 22, 24, 36, 37 all have things that need to be corrected.
22.
For instance, on the first paragraph on page 24, there is
I'm catching up.
the sentence reads, projections based on growth data and adjusted for potential build-out estimate the town may add another 400 people by 2055, although this is not a given, depends on how the town manages growth over the same period. I mean, there's just something wrong in that sentence. And page 37, these are very minor things. I think if we had a week or 10 days to, and the mayor could just have the authority to make the changes.
Okay.
Like page 37, the ocean and sound water section.
I don't know, get ready to ask.
Yeah, I don't know
So
if
is
that's
what
possible.
Paul has in mind possible with the process? Or do we need to
Value spelled out.
table the motion?
It's just little stuff like that.
I think it could,
Can we adopt it with typographical selection, revisions as highlighted by Councilman Sherlock?
I think you've brought up pages 22, 24, 36, 37, and I think if you were to specify in the motion to adopt it with the changes to these pages that you all discussed, I think we can make those changes as long as you all reference that we are to make those
Okay.
changes
Let me,
in the when you make
in the motion, okay, so let me amend the
approval.
motion by allowing Paula to list off all the pages where she thinks there might be some typos.
And the acknowledgements for adding.
And the
new citizen
acknowledgements,
member and
yeah,
new
I
provision.
agree with that idea, I like that idea.
I think as long as you note the changes that you're making in the document you're adopting, I think we'll be okay. Andrea, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. Great. So pages,
So we update the acknowledgements.
Yes.
We make a change from swamps to swamp on page 22. Revise the first paragraph on page 24. Revise the end of the first paragraph and the beginning of the second paragraph on page 36. Correct the ocean and sound waters paragraph on page 37. And there may be others, but those are the ones I found.
okay.
What was the change on page 36?
If you look at the repetitive paragraphs, the end of the first paragraph and the beginning of the second paragraph. Although the plan was never adopted, the major recommendations in the plan are listed below. This plan was not adopted, however, the plan did provide numerous recommendations for the town. I think we can
Just
just,
a little
put-
redundancy
yeah,
in the
but-
wording.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just repetitive.
Yeah.
It's just a cut and paste thing, I think. It's really what we're looking at.
Paul, did you go through the whole thing?
Yes.
Is that all you found, or do you think there's more?
This is all I found.
Yeah, that's, I was afraid you were going to say that, okay? I mean,
You
it
know,
sounds to me like the whole thing needs to be edited. And by edited, I mean looked at line by line. I mean, I read it again real fast, but I missed it. I mean, I'll be honest, I missed it. Okay, some of those things.
I think these are, my lawyer friend is laughing at me. These are minor, they don't change
No,
the information, they don't change the recommendations, the process. But I think they should be done before all this is
Yeah, I mean, that's just
published.
a sentence strike. The other is just a spelling correction.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
very
The-
small.
The first paragraph that you highlighted on 22, I think it's just a verb.
Yeah, it's just a
tense is
word,
wrong.
right.
Yep.
But I could read it both ways.
Minor. Okay,
But,
until something goes.
you know,
wrong.
I also, yeah, I also have,
We can amend it. I mean, it's
Huh?
not a zoning. ordinance.
Can you
Right.
amend it?
We can amend it.
I also have strong feelings about commas, but I don't really want to go through this whole thing and change all the commas. So, no, I think it's fine. It's just a little tweaking.
Strong and white.
okay, so we have an amended motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Should there be a thorough reading of it to make, you know, we-
Yeah.
we can make sure that we do that. I mean, this is part of the discussion time.
yeah.
You know, you never know that it's wrong, it's right till it's proven wrong by an issue that comes up legally or whatever. That's what I'm saying. Okay, I mean, you get it right the first time. I mean, and if there's just some of those, I mean, the cutting and pasting probably went on. I think it's our responsibility to make sure that it's done thoroughly, 100%. So if we find these, so is Wes going to go through this and read it line for line?
He probably has.
Is our consultant going to do this line for line to make sure it's right? Should it come back to us that way, right? I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Right now, we've been made aware of these typographical errors that we can make, and if you all bring up others, we can make them. So if you want to add something to the effect of
All right.
review the document for any additional typographical errors,
Yeah.
we can do that. We're willing to do whatever we need to do.
I'm certainly willing to spend some more time looking at it.
Yeah.
I spent some time looking at it,
Not
but,
like Paula. I didn't.
but not, yeah.
Yeah, I read it, but
She had AI.
obviously we missed something. So I think we need to do it right. If we can add some kind of amendment that says it needs to be
I'm just gonna feed
Reviewed thoroughly
See what comes out.
for graphical and all that, and I think our consultant does that, do they not? Isn't that part of the contract?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we ought to have that, done, I really do. Be thorough. Can we get that in the amendment? Can we get that in this motion?
So the motion has been further amended. So does that motion have a second?
Second.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Any further discussion of the amended motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, staff. Wes, thank you, Andrea and Stuart. Appreciate all your hard work on this. It's a
And-
monumental effort.
Monumental.
Quick question.
Yep.
Does that mean after it's all reviewed and changed, then it can be submitted to the state
For
for
certification,
certification?
yes.
Good, okay.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Andrea.
thanks again, Andrea.
Thank you all.
Now, moving on to new business number 4, I'm handing the meeting back over to our attorney, Philip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I now open the public hearing for TCA -24-02 Town Code Amendment submitted by the Town of Southern Shores. Call planning director. Mr. Bass.
Thank you again, Mr. Hornthal. The next item on you all's agenda is TCA-2402. You all have received in your packets staff report and agenda summary. And I'll just briefly just touch on what this town code amendment, what these town code amendments do. The first, in section 1-2, part 1, we are proposing to add 2 definitions, one for the term development and then the other for the term development approval, which are the definitions are consistent with the definitions established in North Carolina General Statute, Chapter 160D. And I will note that in the TCA document on page 2 of the TCA document, page 16 of your packets, development and development approval are italicized, but they should also be underlined, indicating that they are, that it's all new, new language. So development, all in its definitions, lines 18 through 23, 17 through 23 should all be underlined, and lines 25 through 33 should all be underlined, indicating its proposed language. The other amendments that this town code amendment includes is to our flood damage prevention ordinance. And you'll find this on page 4 of 5 of the town code amendment document, page 18 in your packets. And the intent here is to, in the shaded X and unshaded X flood zones, where our local elevation standard of 8 feet above sea level applies. Right now, we allow for property owners or contractors to submit either an elevation certificate under construction and finished construction, or a survey that shows that the ground elevation is to or above that 8-foot elevation. So since this has been in place, I think since 2020, we found that, you all are aware of our filing room and all the files and documents we have in there, we have a lot of older elevation certificates that can be, in a lot of cases, could have been used to make the process easier for a property owner or a contractor. But the ordinance, the interpretation that we've been going with is that they had to provide new under construction or finished construction elevation certificates, or they could use a survey that showed that the ground elevation was higher. So what we're proposing now is to make this a little bit easier for property owners and contractors when applying for development in the X and shaded X and unshaded X flood zone, so that they could provide a FEMA-approved form, survey, or other documentation prepared by a licensed professional that demonstrates that the natural grade of the parcel meets or exceeds the RFPE of 8 feet. This could be an older elevation certificate. This could be a survey that shows spot elevations on the survey, what the elevation actually is, or it could be some other certification. It could be a letter from a surveyor saying, I, so-and-so and so-and-so, found to be the elevation of the property adjacent to the structure at 9 feet above sea level, period. And we could accept that document. So the intent here is to make it easier for development in the shaded X and unshaded X flood zones. Makes sense.
Okay.
Is there anyone here to sign up to speak? Anyone would like to speak? I now close the public hearing.
Thank you, Philip. Council, anybody have any questions for Wes about this?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt TCA 24-02 with one change in the, where it says page 18 of our packet, RFPE of 8 feet. I think we should add NAVD 1988 to specify which datum, because there are a lot of elevation certificates that have the old datum in them in our records. But with that one change, I would like to make a motion to adopt TCA 24-02.
Second?
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Can I ask a question to staff about whether there was, because it's struck out right before the
Right.
underlining. So did we just, is that change it substantially by putting the NAVD?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's not making it any more strict than what we already have in place, and it would just read exceeds the RFPE of 8 feet, NAVD 1988.
Okay,
What does that do for the, I'm just asking.
It's a different datum in which they measure sea level. So like the elevation
Okay.
certificate I pulled in our files 2 days ago
Yeah.
had the 1929 datum in it. So it would have demonstrated a different actual elevation. And the West would have
All
known
right,
that.
so you're
but
saying that,
this-
all right.
It defines
You're saying
what our.
The final
RFP
date to use is 19.
It's a little redundant because the RFP is
All right.
defined elsewhere,
Okay.
but
I get it, yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right.
so any further discussion, questions, council? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Public comment? Would anyone like to speak to council today? Even if you haven't signed up, now's your chance.
somebody's got to say something.
We've been very busy. Okay, no public comments, so we'll move on to council business. I try to move this around in terms of who starts and who goes in whatever order, so, but sometimes I wonder if I'm actually changing it up. Mark, would you like to go first?
Thrilling, yes, I'll be happy to go first. But you're making me go fast.
Okay.
The tour board has been very busy, and a couple things, I don't want to lengthen this too much, but I'll just start with some things that are coming out pretty soon here with a promise that you can pick up in the visitor center. They're going to be announcing this on July the 16th, where you're making a promise to enhance the Outer Banks as a visitor and as a resident. They're going to pass these out and then they're going to post them, is what they're going to do, because we live in a special place. And they want everybody to respect the environment, but also promised to do that. okay? It's one of the tourism board do. You know, the tourism board collects a lot of money from meals tax and occupancy tax, and they spend it back in the community for the benefit of the communities and for the visitors. So it has. Just quickly, I'll go through the 24-25 marketing strategies that have been adopted. We're supporting year-round tourism economy, cultivate conscientious visitation and destination stewardship. It's becoming more and more, and we're becoming more of a year-round destination, believe it or not. Okay, even though sometimes in the wintertime it seems kind of slow here, it is, but more people are coming. So the strategy for this coming year is to expand the niche audience approach, but balance it with reach, enhance visitor understanding and appreciation of the OBX. Grow first-party data for email and remarketing. In other words, get the data and then make smart decisions on how we spend that money, and leverage Visit North Carolina opportunities. Raise awareness for local nonprofits, their events and volunteerism opportunities, and enhance existing research programs, coordinate research sharing with local travel partners, and update the marketing dashboard to align with the desired outcomes. So there's a lot going on at the tourism board. It is very comprehensive, and I'll say this since I'm on there, this is my first time on there. It's well run, very well run. What I'm looking for, because here it is the occupancy collections through April, or through April. These things always lag by 2 months, what they are. But April, you probably read it on the Outer Banks Voice as well. But April was not a good month. It was down from the previous year pretty significantly, about 25% on occupancy tax collected. However, we're looking at this as a settling year. I mean, we had 4 incredible years here. When you go back to 20 and even you go back to 19, 20 was the benchmark year, as we all know, for COVID. And April just got knocked on the socks then. But it's still up and down. I mean, and some people, we budgeted conservatively for 24-25. We have a budget, but a little uncertainty yet on where it's going to go. I think May will be, April is just soft, plain and simple. Some people are blaming it on Easter. That's what I used to do in the grocery business if it wasn't right. And because Easter falls at different times, and they'd ask us why the sales weren't up then. And I said, well, Easter was earlier last year. So we'll find out. And but it's still up in the air of how it's going to be. You can judge yourself as residents of the city by the traffic. Meals tax collections are down as well. They were down in April. It's too early to judge May, and we'll know more about it. But there's a lot going on there on behalf of the tourism board to attract people here to enjoy this special place and also to spend their money. So we like that.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Rob?
There's nothing from current TV, no meetings or anything else. The only other thing I'd like to bring up, there's been many more cyber attacks recently. And a whole host of cyber attacks happened with one software vendor in the car industry. And it basically crippled a lot of the car industry, especially car dealerships. They had to go back to paper contracts. I think the town should consider something. We all use pretty much our own equipment to access a lot of the things, and we're subject to hacking or whatever else. So whether, in other words, to tighten up the whole notion, whether the town wants to supply the council and others with a tablet that can be maintained and, in essence, enhance the whole notion of providing cybersecurity for the town. I think town staff would not like to have to write a lot of paper contracts if, in fact, the town was hacked. So this is something, a longer-term issue, but I think we want to look into it.
Thanks, Rob. Paula?
Just briefly, as many of you know, we have taken on a little renovation of our Southern Shores Cemetery as a project, since we have a substantial amount of money in the budget that's earmarked solely for the maintenance and improvement of the cemetery. So just to get the process started, I've met with about 15 people who have family members who are buried in the cemetery or who own plots in the cemetery. I just met with them informally out in the cemetery, and we looked around and just brainstormed about what different things might be substantial improvements. The mayor and I also met with a certified arborist, Andy McConaughey. And Andy very graciously gave us his opinion about what we can do about the trees there, which, some people are of the mindset to just cut down a lot of the trees. But Andy informed us that some of the dogwoods there are over 100 years old, some of the live oaks are over 200 years old, and that we really should try to preserve those. He had some ideas about encouraging grass growth there, some plantings that we might do to add some color to the cemetery, some methods of nourishing the soil so that the grass would grow, improving the signage at the cemetery and doing some landscaping there. So he's going to write a letter, I believe, to the mayor and copy it to Cliff. And so we'll have some idea of some professional advice on that. Today, Cliff and David and I and a community volunteer and our mayor stopped by. We spent a couple of hours this morning picking up litter, dead plants, faded flowers, old beer bottles, all sorts of things out in the cemetery, just to clean it up a little bit before the holidays. And David also advised us of some things there that really make it very difficult for Public Works to mow there. So we're going to try to work on those. So we're moving on, and we'll take our next step after we get the letter from our arborist and see what we can do.
Thanks, Paul. Matt?
The only comments I have is just maybe something for us to think about in the coming months. Serving on the county task force for workforce housing, we're thinking about housing affordability, housing availability, increase of housing stock. Zaner has basically presented us a challenge to take a look at housing in our own districts and how we could be a part of the solution. And I'm going back to the land use plan again, that we just adopted, where it says, consider evaluation of the town's current policy on separate living spaces and standards for accessory dwelling units. I know planning board started to take this up last meeting. I think that this is something we should continue to talk about, whether the state's taking action on it or not. I know there's a lot of hurdles with covenants and things like that, but let's be part of the solution. And I mean, this is right in line with our other land use plan, where preserve the low density nature of the residential community. So, I mean, they're not in opposition to each other. And I think that's the thing that we need to start thinking about. So I don't know if that's an agenda item to discuss, maybe something for a workshop, but I do think we should elevate it to something we move with action on.
I agree. We need to start talking about it. Thanks, Matt. I just have a couple of things. I have a very special, I don't know how to actually describe this. One of our very long time residents, she lives on North Dogwood, celebrated quite a milestone a couple months ago. I had hoped to perhaps, present her with a certificate of something, but she's not getting out of the house these days. But she is 100 years young. And I know that a previous council has recognized an individual that had achieved that major milestone. So I want to wish Fern Schursma a wonderful, happy, much belated, but happy 100th birthday. And hope that she's happy and healthy, enjoying the time. July 17th, there's going to be a mayor's chat, 4:30 to 5:30. It's right here. That's a Wednesday. Happy to chat about our commercial zone, the small plan, the accessory dwelling units, affordable housing, whatever, traffic.
What you wish for.
Let's see,
Cemetery.
fireworks,
Cemetery.
whatever anyone wants to chat about. We will have staff here. so that the mayor doesn't, answer questions with misinformation. And anyway, hope anyone who wants to come, please come. And our next meeting will be Tuesday, August 6th at 5:30. And now, council, there is a closed session on our agenda. So according to NCGS 143-318.11.6, Town Manager's Annual Performance Evaluation, I'd like to make a motion that we go into closed session.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. And so I gavel us out for tonight. Thank you.
Okay.